is a beautiful rendition of that song. A little more love for the Big Love Band. We missed you last week. So, nobody likes death. Nobody likes to talk about it. Nobody wants to know about it. Nobody wants to experience it. Nobody wants anyone they know or love to die. We're not very good in this country about being present with the awe-inducing truth that in 150 years, 8 billion people will not be here. The same 8 billion people will not be here. And there'll be 8 billion new people. And that's a pretty, just think about it. Pretty profound, yes? And we're on a planet hurling through space. So how does this all happen? We come, we go, we appear, we disappear. And some countries, the Day of the Dead is coming up for Mexico, and there are many, many countries. Hinduism have a very healthy approach to death. And it's interesting because you almost have to, F. Scott Fitzgerald said, it's the sign of an intelligent person who can hold two opposing ideas at the same time in thought. So can we feel what we feel about death and dying while also being fearless about death and dying? Can we do both? Because this isn't, when we talk about this, we're not talking about the human reaction to someone you love who dies. We're not talking about how we respond when someone tells us we're going to die. But I promise you, in this room of 50 people, there are people here who have lost people recently. There are people here who are not doing well physically. There are people here who are losing mothers and fathers. It's so normal and so everyday and so sacred and holy now that it will serve us to lighten up about it. Now, I want to give you my credentials to have this conversation. One is I'm human, and I'm going to die. I'm human, and thought I was going to die a few years ago, but I didn't. By the way, I had a wonderful nurse say to me in my thoughts about that, she said to me, oh, honey, don't worry, you're on God's time now. Don't worry, you're on God's time now. Whatever happens, happens. So, I also, when I was in ministerial school, went through a crash course on death. I lost my mother, my stepmother, and my stepfather in 12 months. And my mother was the first, and I couldn't even get close to it. I was a minister then too. I couldn't even get near to it. It was so emotionally traumatic for me. And then my stepfather died, and it was a little less emotionally traumatic. And I'm in school studying these things. We did a class in ministerial school where you had to write your own celebration of life service. So you had to imagine your own death. You had to write out what you wanted to be said about you. You had to create the atmosphere, pick the songs, write the eulogy. It was so powerful and wonderful. But by the time I got to my stepmother, I hospiced her at home, and it was probably one of the most sacred, beautiful experiences of my life. So after that, I did some work in hospice, and during COVID, I became a certified death doula. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, it's a person who can companion with somebody who's dying, or companion with a family or somebody left behind, in order to have real conversations and provide support. Because people who are dying want to talk. But they mostly can't talk to you if they're your mother or your child because it's too painful, right? So let's see if we can lighten up and embrace what it might mean to look at immortality. In the Science of Mind philosophy, we believe in immortality and eternality. So nobody's denying that the body leaves, because the body does leave. 8 billion people will not be here in 150 years. Well, I shouldn't say that, maybe a few will, but not many. And there'll be 8 billion new people here, probably even more than that. I think this idea, this conversation we're having is like the ultimate glow up. Like you're going to glow up. Or sideways, we really don't know, do we? Part of the conundrum of this conversation is that we don't really know, do we? Now, there are many, many hundreds of accounts of near-death experiences, people who went to the brink of death and came back. And I think it's pretty universal that they say, don't worry, it's not so bad. So, but we don't really know. So we have to kind of, Ernest Holmes would say, you have to sort it out in your own consciousness. What do you believe? What do you think? How do you want to approach this thing called death? How do you want to approach this thing called life? Michael Singer says this, the author of The Untethered Soul. He says, the impermanence of life is our most powerful teacher, bringing vibrance and power to our days. The inevitability of death serves as a motivation to live each day with purpose and passion. So it is the reason, oh, you guys can't see my slides. Okay, well, just take a quick peek. You are a perennial. So, okay, good enough. Back to me. The point of taking a little bit of a dive into this conversation is not to really spend too much time thinking about death, your death or somebody else's death, because I'm going to tell you, there is no death. I know it looks like people die. I know you've been told that people, I'm sorry, your mother's dead. And we as a country have a way of talking about this and thinking about this that makes it less holy than it is. My teacher, Dr. Michael Beckwith, would say, we appear at the time of our birth, and we disappear at the time of our death. But you had an existence before your birth, and you shall have an existence after your death. So would it be so much more loving if the doctors would say, I'm sorry, your mother has disappeared. Or we're so sorry, but your mother has returned to her source. Now, does that change our feelings about it? Of course not. Our grieving, it doesn't change that. This room is weird today. Does it feel weird? It totally, I'm telling you, it totally feels so weird. I don't know what it is. It's like a little hollow. Oh, Halloween. So, for those of you who don't garden, annuals are plants that sing one song. You plant them, they bloom, and they're gone. And you have to replant them every year. We're not annuals. Because that would imply that your life, your existence in this body is a one-shot wonder, which is ridiculous. Doesn't it feel crazy to think that you could not exist? Now, the body cannot exist for sure, but you, your essence, your truth, your beingness cannot not exist. So I like the idea that we are perennials. A perennial, different than an annual, is something that reblooms every season for eternity. Unless, of course, your dog chews it up or something happens. But left to its own devices, perennials bloom again and again, just like us. Now, whether that means there's reincarnation, whether that means, in the Bible, Jesus said, my Father's house has many, many dimensions, many rooms. So I don't know, maybe it's a different experience in this one. I don't know. I don't exactly know. But what I do know is that you exist after you're gone. Those of you who have lost people, they still exist. This must be true. Ernest Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind, and so we prepare not to die, but to live. The thought of death should slip from our consciousness altogether, and when this great event of the soul takes place, and it will, it should be beautiful, sublime, a glorious experience. As the eagle, freed from its cage, rises to its original height, so the soul, freed from its home in heavy flesh, will rise and return to its Father's house, naked and unafraid. So this idea that our death can be a glorious, sublime experience. Can you imagine being so ready, so prepared, so free of morbidity and fear that you can approach your death with serenity, or someone else's too, perhaps, but really a little focused on us, in the awareness that you're on God's time, now, always, and forevermore. Ernest Holmes says also, I believe in the continuation of the personal life beyond the grave, in the continuity of the individual stream of consciousness with a full recollection of itself and the ability to know and to make itself known. Now, I'm not sure, by the way, I agree with Dr. Ernest Holmes. I'm probably not really allowed to say that. But I'm not positive that the personality goes with us. I think the essence goes with us, but I'm not so sure that you take... I'm going to tell you a story about Dr. Fred Wolf. He was a quantum physicist who taught one of my classes, and he wrote an original theory on how things work around here. Here was his theory, and I was actually taking a class when my mother passed, and it was so deeply profoundly meaningful to me. Maybe it will be to you too, since I'm being called to tell you the story. He believed that life was like a cauldron of soul soup, a sea of soul, where everything, all unlimited possibility, all things possible lived in this soul soup. Are you with me? Do you have a visual? Yeah. And that out of this soul soup, things popped into existence temporarily. So he would say that as a human, we pop out, we appear by the process that we appear, which we did not create the process. It's pretty magical and mystical, if you ask me, but we pop out, we appear. We garner our lifetime of experience, whether that's a month or 15 years or 20 years or 120 years. We have our experience. And then when we die, we plop back into this soup, soul soup. And with it, all of those memories and experiences which get dispersed in this sea of soul. Then, a little bit later, Harry pops out. And Harry, and I'm sure this happened to some of you, I'll just use myself. I remember the first time ever going to Italy and feeling a deja vu. Anybody ever done that? Like, oh, I've been here before? I've been here before. Or, wow, I know this person. Or something like that. And Dr. Fred Wolf would say it's because in the sea of soul soup, you pick up threads of memory that you bring with you that weren't yours. Which makes, I like the idea very much of, it feels like to me the epitome of oneness and unity. That would say we are one. That would make it pretty literal. We are one. Individualized expressions of the whole. So you have this cauldron of soul in which we all participate, and then we pop out, interact, go back, share the stories, pop out, interact, go back and share the stories. So I offer that to you as an idea. Now, if you were to relax and just go, I am going to die someday, and how do I want to do that? What do I need to do that with elegance and grace and ease? What do I need to do to make sure that for my loved ones and family, that they are so cared for and so, that I handle it in such a way that it's not a trauma for them physically. There's always the loss, right? There's always loss and grief. I cannot tell you how many people won't do a will. They just won't make a will. Why? Because I don't want to think about that. Right? Or it's too scary. Or they're afraid that if they write the will, they're like making something happen. But to say to your loved ones, what I want when I'm dying is I want you to put on Beethoven. I want candlelight in the room. I want my favorite pillow. And I don't want the TV on. I mean, how awesome is that? Right? To spell it out. To really be detail-oriented about it. Wayne Dyer says, the awareness that your essence remains as your bodies are recycled. That's a good image, right? Recycle. Because really, the 8 billion people, where did the 8 billion, dust to dust, 8 billion people, either cremated or buried, that's a lot of stuff. Right? It's a lot of dust. It's a lot of stuff. So I like them. It makes it kind of real when you think it's been said that we're constantly breathing in the DNA of our ancestors. Constantly. That our ethers is full of the DNA of everything that's gone before us. Anyway, the awareness that your essence remains as your bodies are recycled is a great source of liberation. That when you die, you do not die. That you are not an annual, you are a perennial. It allows us not to fear death. When we don't fear death, we live life in an entirely different way. That's what we're going for here. The talk day is really not about death, because death is inconsequential in some ways, because you are going to die. That's a given. But how you live your life is really the point. Can you live it without morbidity, without fear of death, without, it frees you, it liberates you. We live in a different way. Carl Jung said he had never seen a single permanent healing of a person from any kind of neurosis or disorder. He said he'd never seen any kind of permanent healing from any kind of neurosis or disorder without a restoration of spiritual faith, and that it is impossible to get the most out of life unless we believe in our own immortality. Michael Singer also said, the day which we fear as our last is but the birthday of eternity. So this month, we've been talking about glow up, about being in life shiny, extending your life, extending your service, extending your love, doing what you love, being what you love. We're here, I love Charles Fillmore talks about zeal, the word zeal, and joie de vivre, the love of life. Hello? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. God says everything I'm saying is true. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was the mother of hospice. Her whole entire life was spent working with the dying, working with death and dying, working with people who are dying, people who lost people, grief support, but primarily hospice. How many of you have encountered hospice? is pretty special, is it not? These people are so at ease with and comfortable around those who are dying. They have deep respect for those who are dying. You know, how many of us, I remember when my father died, which is much younger, but I wasn't allowed to see him. Did any of you have an experience like that where it was hidden from you, or not talked about, or I don't know. I think it creates some problems with us as we ourselves age and begin to approach the time in life when it's a serious conversation. We need to have the serious conversation with ourselves. We need to sort it out long before we get to the moment. So she says, I've told my children all that when I die, to release balloons in the sky to celebrate that I have graduated. So we end this month, we just end it really glowing. If you were to say, if I say I'm on God's time now, that doesn't just mean when you're dying or when you're grieving. It means you're always on God's time. Always on where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing. And hopefully you're free from the fear of a future, which the fear of death is going to leave you way too far out in the future and not here in the present moment. I remember when I had cats. This is a true story, because I know I'm not the only neurotic person. I remember when I had living cats, and every once in a while I would start to worry about what I would do when they died and how sad I would be. I'm talking when they were kittens, right? I mean, I spent a lot of time worrying about how long will they live? When am I going to have to get used to them not being here? It's a ridiculous waste of energy. Because cats, plants, roses, everything has its season. It's time to be born and it's time to die. And our work, so the spiritual work here, the invitation today is to, one, don't be afraid to sort out where you stand in the conversation. Because where you stand in the conversation will determine your life experience here and now. And you want to live fully, you want to glow fully here and now. Don't wait. Because we don't know. We don't know when that moment comes for us, but we need not live in fear of it, because if it comes, do you know there's a whole religion, Gnosticism, that they pray for death. For them, this life experience is hell, not heaven on earth. This life experience is not pleasant, they don't want it, they don't like it, so they're counting the days until they can get off this planet and go where they're freer. So we have a cultural predisposition to how we think about death and dying. So begin to just see, decide where you are, take responsibility for that you will die someday, not today, and then get on with the business of living. And from the practical standpoint, when you get on the business of living, you can then do the steps you need to do to make sure that you have a good death and that you support the people who love you around you. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, our affirmation today, I'll say it, is, I am a birthless and deathless spiritual being. I am a perennial, eternally blooming, forever growing and glowing for God. You can't see this, but you can turn around. Just turn around. And with gusto, say it now.
I am a birthless and deathless spiritual being. I am a perennial, eternal blooming, forever
as a minister, I have to tell you, I love memorial services, celebrations of life, way more than I love weddings. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when people are in the conversation about death, or they're grieving their loved ones, or the families come together, they are in a zone of real. Like something really real is going on for people. It's deep, it's holy. It's, people are paying attention. You know, it's like jumping out of airplanes. It's like when you're right there, there's something so alive about it. You know, way different than two 19-year-olds who have no idea what they're doing. I now pronounce you husband and wife till death do you part. Yeah, right, yeah, right. I'm kidding. Well, I'm not really kidding, but I'm making light. So let's just take this into prayer. Let's just, and you know, each one here individual, everyone's in their own story in life. Some of you have lost people, some of you haven't. Some of you are losing people, some of you are scared to death of death. Some of you don't want to talk about it, and it'll never come back if I talk about it again. But there is something very powerful in, I want to say, softening around the conversation and just getting real. You know, you go to the doctor and say, doctor, oh my God, I think I'm dying. He goes, well, you are, but what else is wrong? Right? It's like a fact of life. So let's turn within for a moment. We turn within to the place within us that knows its immortality, that knows that we are an essence, that we are a vibration, that we are an energy, that we are a birthless, deathless being. We were before we had a face, and we shall be again when we don't. And that though that may be mysterious, it can also be true and real. And so as we close our outer eyes, we turn away from the world and all of its seduction, all of its interpretation, all of what everyone else says, and we open our inner eyes and gaze into that space and place within us that knows that it knows that it knows. The space and place within us that is the dwelling place of this ineffable power and intelligence and wisdom and order and joy and love that is the source of all life, the source of my life and the source of your life. And what I know is that in that connection, that there is an awareness that we are on God's time now. We've always belonged to the one who created us, always. We have our human parents, our human experience, and then we have our spiritual experience, our spiritual genesis. And so it's from that place of community and connection, of awareness, that I just speak my word for and about each and every one of us in this conversation, with an invitation to open the heart, to live in the present moment, to grieve as you need to grieve in appropriate, wonderful ways, but knowing all the while that your loved ones are fine. Your loved ones are on God's time now too. And so in this awareness, what I claim and affirm is that we live life more fully. We are braver. We are more expressive. We shine our light more easily. We can be available to people who need to talk, who need us to listen, or need to lean in, that we need not fear this thing called death. There is only life, there is only life, and there is only life. And more life. We go from glory to greater glory. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so with this word released, I accept that something has shifted for each and every one of us, that there is an awareness and an aha, something, and that we bless that. We're grateful for that. And we just simply allow this prayer to land and expect it and accept it to be fulfilled. And so I just invite you to join me in this moment, anchoring this prayer by saying, and so it is, amen. Thank you. All right, so